Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie. We just got back from a trip to Fort Collins yesterday where we spent the day. So this is the first day I've been back out in the garden, which is the day after the video that I made previously. So anyway, this is July 18th, I believe it is. And we are out here looking at the corn. The corn is tasseling. Yesterday we had temperatures at 93 with lows in the mid 60s, and the corn looks like it grew a foot just yesterday. We've got tasseling going on everywhere now, pretty much throughout the corn bed except for in the back where it's shaded, but those are catching up very quickly. You can see they definitely look like they have more mature leaves that are going on, and even the little tiny ones right back here in the actual shade are getting bigger as well. I'm not sure that they'll actually produce much. They usually haven't in previous seasons, but the temperatures have really been up there, so that really prompts them to do a whole lot of growing as it comes to pass. And the beans are, well, these are the Kentucky Wonder pole beans as well as the rattlesnake pole beans. And they are just, there's runners everywhere. The corn is not exactly a tall variety. It's the early sun glow hybrid, so it only gets about 4 to 4.5 feet tall once it tassels, which is already happening. So there's not a whole lot for the beans to run up on. So sometimes they just wrap around on themselves and then eventually will run up on the corn. Right now they're trying to attach to the zinnias, so I keep having to come out here and just detach them from the zinnias and kind of push them back towards the corn. But you can see where they're trying to wrap up on the corn. And then our Tahitian squash, which is also at the base of the corn, is kind of hidden from the corn, or by the corn right now. So you can see the Tahitian squash is in there, and it is blooming. There's blooms on there, and the runners are running down the aisles. I'm not real sure that they're going to be as long as they were last season. Last season they probably got about 75 to 100 feet long, and I just kept kind of wrapping them in on themselves. And I'm not even sure that they'll produce this season because we are behind by about 2 to 2.5 weeks. I got planted a lot earlier last season and barely had Tahitian squash coming in by the time frost hit. So that's what we're looking at. They may not make it this season as far as producing anything, but they're in here with the corn, and we do have lots of other types of squash available to us. If those also come to fruition, they're blooming like crazy right now, especially the red curry squash. So we'll have plenty of winter squash available to us, even if the Tahitian squash or the butternut squash, either one, do not produce. And they tend to be a lot longer season than some of our other varieties of squash that we have. This morning I've been out here being productive. This is early in the morning. I actually got out here at about 6 o'clock this morning. And I was out here transplanting some of my bush cucumbers because we had like 10 in one of my containers, and that was the lemon tree that we have, and that one actually fell over, darn it. So we'll have to put some soil back down in there. So anyway, got out here, did that, and then I'm going to list those on one of the Facebook groups for people to come and pick those up if they would like to, because they're already well established. Starting to get, bush cucumbers don't really have runners, but they will put up a little bit of a stalk like a runner, and they will spread out for about 3 to 5 feet. It just depends on how good the conditions are, the soil, all of that. So they're really well established plants. I need to get them out of the sun because right now they're still tender with the fact that we've transplanted them out. I've been very successful at that this season. We've transplanted out of the garden some squash when I thin them out. People have been posting pictures on Facebook of the squash that they got from me, and they're just getting enormous. I mean, they took right off when they set them out, and they're doing great. And the key to transplanting out of the garden is to make sure you get as much soil around the base of the roots as possible, and then just add a little bit more soil to backfill when you put them into some containers. Let them establish for a couple of days till they perk back up, and then transplant out into your garden or into a larger container whatever you would like, and they will take right off from there. They may be a little bit behind by a couple of days, but other than that, they'll be right back to where they were at. We still have our tomatoes coming on over here, which I'm not real sure that they will do anything, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try everything I can, and at the end of the season, I'll pull them inside and see if we can finish them on out that way. But I'm not real sure we'll be able to. We'll find out. And we still have a couple of borage to give to people. Looks like we've got some pests attacking that one. And I'm not real sure what that might be other than flea beetles. So if that is the case, then I need to get on that, because the flea beetles will actually attack other plants that I have, and we just can't be having that. So got out here and watered everything, because our temperatures today are actually supposed to be 97 degrees. May even get to 100. And it is only about 7:30 in the morning right now. I've been out here for about an hour and just watering everything, and it is already extremely hot. So I'm glad I got out here real early and got things watered. And especially these mint, because the mint are in a place where they don't normally hang out. They're usually in a shaded area. But they decided they really liked it over here, so I left them over here. So we just make sure that we really water these guys, and they are just fine. So we got some more cucumbers planted at the base of our hibiscus trees, and those are just perking right up and coming right on, and they're a very early variety, done in about 50 days, 45 to 50 days. These are the Burpee Pickler. So I'm hoping that we get some cucumbers out of those so we can do some pickles. And we've got, of course, all kinds of other varieties of cucumbers, but most of them are fresh eating instead of pickling. You can pickle them, but you would need to pickle them for like refrigerator pickles instead of canning them. Our lettuce is taking off like crazy in this heat. It's surprisingly doing very well. I've had one try to go to bolt, and I just pinched off the top. And it looks like we got one more that's trying to bolt, and I will pinch the top off of that one. This is a mixture of black-seeded Simpson and I believe either Great Lakes or Grand Rapids. I think it's Grand Rapids TBR. So anyway, excellent lettuce. It's been very, very, very good. It's a little bit bitter right now, but if I just take the leaves off and then put them in ice cold water and let them sit for a little bit, they just sweeten right back up. So that's a tip too. You can submerge your lettuce in water, and if it's bitter at all, it will just take the bitterness out of it and make it right back sweet again. We've been enjoying that just about every day. Parsley, still looking amazing. We've got some seedling parsley that is coming along. These seeds came up in like 3 days. There they are. And we'll thin those out and let that finish bushing out that pot. That is the triple curl parsley. Summer savory, we planted some summer savory. We didn't have any come up, so I just reused the same pot, washed it out, put in some fresh Master Garden soil instead of the other nasty soil, and we got some more seeds planted in there. I thinned out this batch of cilantro to try to see if it would come on, and it looks like that it might. So we went ahead and thinned it out. It looks pretty terrible, but it looks like it will pull out of whatever's going on with that soil. Of course, we got more lettuce over here that is looking really good. This is just a gourmet blend, so it's very tender, but we do have it surrounded by these other plants, and it kind of keeps it shaded in there, so it's been doing quite well even in the heat right now. We got out here and watered everything. I just really gave it a good soaking because it's going to be so hot today. Some things will probably kind of lay down even though it's been watered. And there's the pot that we thinned out the bush cucumbers out of. So we just left 3 in there. So they should definitely come on now and spread out. And we've got some snapdragons in there as well that I had forgotten that I'd planted. So we're going to leave those, see if we actually get any snapdragons out of them. And everything is just still looking amazing. This pot just definitely is a stunner. This is the one with the white Crenshaws and white spine cucumbers, as well as the Cherente Cantaloupe, and the leaves on there are massive, and they are running. You can see the runners on there like crazy throughout. They are just massive plants. I've never had cantaloupe or cucumbers or anything like that have leaves that are so giant. And all I did differently with this pot was I added a little bit more compost than I did with the others, and also a little bit more Job's organic fertilizer, just so I could get it well established. And of course, this was the amended soil, the Master Garden soil from last season that was throughout most of the containers here, and we just put in some nutrients and kind of swished it around, and then I put it back into the pot, and then we planted. So whatever I did must have been the perfect thing, because these guys are massive, and this pot is huge, by the way. I'm not really exactly sure how big it is, but it looks like it's about half the size of a barrel. Tarragon is really looking amazing now, even though it's in that nasty soil. There was a second tarragon that had came up recently, and I went ahead and transplanted it over to the other side of the pot. But again, that's the nasty soil. It just died right off. So that soil just, I don't know why that tarragon made it out of all of the others, but it's thriving, it's fine. But the others just did not do well at all. And it's interesting because the Sun Sugar Gold or Sun Gold cherry tomatoes are in that nasty soil. That's the Schultz soil, and they're doing okay. They're doing okay out of everything. So I'm not real sure. I'm not real sure what's going on. I've amended that soil, by the way. I pulled most of it out of all the pots that I could. I just did not do it on those tomatoes. So I pulled it out and I've amended it, and it's, since I've been using it again, it seems to be doing okay. So I don't know whatever was in it or how hot it was, and maybe it cooled it off. I have no idea, but it seems to be working now. Our doll baby watermelons that are planted in here or interplanted with our strawberries are doing just fantastic. And I'm trying to hurry with the video because it's getting so hot now that my phone will likely shut off from the heat. Other watermelons and tomatoes are doing fantastic. We do have a watermelon set, and that would be on the Crimson Sweets, I believe, or the Sugar Baby. I cannot remember which one. And again, we have Klondike, we have Black Diamond, we have Doll Baby, we have Blacktail watermelons, which I had just planted very shortly ago. We've got the Spring Burpless cucumbers over here, and they are massive as well. They're doing the same thing that the big pot over there is doing, which is just shocking to me how much bigger they are. And even some of my later cucumbers, these are the straight eights, in actually one of them in the nasty soil, the Schultz soil, and one of them in the Master Garden. And the one in the Schultz soil is catching right up with the one in the Master Garden soil. But there were 3 plants in there. 2 of them didn't make it because of that soil. So I'm not sure, just some of them seem to be a little bit more hardy to that soil, and they're doing okay. And now the straight 8 cucumbers that are in this pot with the Schultz soil are beginning to catch up as well. And I'll be putting some more soil in there, and it'll be the Master Garden. But they are doing quite well now, starting to pull out of whatever was going on. Of course, this cucumber doing it just as well, and then these cantaloupe have really perked up in the last couple of days. They were doing fine before, but now they are really putting on some size, just spilling out over the pot, and I'm just going to let them. They don't want to trellis this year for some reason, so that's fine by me. We've got some big Jim peppers back here coming on, at least one, and we got blooming still going on, so you can see that black Jim pepper there. And we've got another, I think this is a Tahitian squash in here, so I probably will have to transplant that out. And then we've got a cucumber or a watermelon coming up in there as well, so I'm not real sure. I think the seeds kind of got mixed in over there, probably some older seeds from the soil that I had moved around at the beginning of the season. So anyway, like I said, we do have a watermelon in here, and let me see if I can find it because I actually moved the pots around today. And yep, here it is. We have, oh, kind of hard to see in there. There's the watermelon, and it's about palm size now. And it just keeps getting bigger every single day I come out here and look at it. And just all the watermelons and tomatoes, everything in the containers looking absolutely amazing. And there's been a couple of videos that have came out from some more popular YouTube creators on gardening, in question of whether you can grow enough in containers to sustain a family. I would say you could if you had a whole lot of containers, and they were fairly large containers, about the size of the ones that are holding the mixture of cucumbers and cantaloupes and things like that we have in this one. Yes, you could if you had enough containers. Of course, I have containers that I still haven't used yet, which are fairly large containers, but I use even smaller containers. As long as they're about a gallon size or more, they can sustain a cucumber. They can sustain tomatoes. This tomato plant right here is in about a 2-gallon container. And you can see it's just loaded with tomatoes. And of course, it's only pear tomatoes. I haven't put my large tomatoes in containers because I just haven't wanted to. And I think they would do the same thing. But yes, you could have enough containers to sustain a family of 4 or a family of 6. Probably not a whole lot more than that unless you just have endless amounts of room and endless amounts of containers. But yes, you can do quite a bit with containers. I think I've proved that. I had an entire harvest of cantaloupes last season. Of course, I don't put any of my staple crops, but I could in containers because I have ground that I can plant other things. But could you do it in containers? Yes, you could if you had enough containers and enough space. Preferably if they could sit on cement because the cement warms up, but they could even sit on gravel. As long as you've got gravel, cement, I wouldn't really put them on the ground because the roots sometimes will come through the base of the pot and then they will root into the ground. But if you wanted to do that, you had the space, why not? And I've seen Hugh Richards, which is I believe he's in Scotland and maybe somewhere in the UK. I haven't really paid much attention to where he's at exactly. But I know he plants a lot of his potatoes in containers, and I've seen him pull quite large potatoes out of those containers. Quite large, normal-sized potatoes that you would get out of a garden. So, yes, you can do it in containers. It takes diligence because you have to put nutrients in the containers. The containers get depleted pretty quickly of nutrients. But as long as you've got something like Jobe's Organic Fertilizer, and I'm not sponsored by them, it's just a fertilizer that I picked up on clearance. I bought for about $1.99 a container. I have lots of containers of it, and I layer soil, compost, and the Jobe's Organic Fertilizer, which is the same thing I would do in the regular garden. And I do the fertilizing at the same time as I do my regular garden. So it's not that far-fetched to think that you could make enough plants or have enough plants to sustain a family in containers. I mean, they do it in biodomes, bioenvironments, whatever you want to call them, where they have gardens inside of huge glass or plexiglass buildings. They do that. That's been proven that you can do it. Now, I wouldn't try to do it on the type of thing that they do, which is usually to leave the plants, let them go to the next season, especially tomatoes and peppers and stuff like that. Eventually they wear out, regardless of whether or not they come back. They do wear out. So it's best to just plant fresh, try to keep to the seasons, how they are, even if you're inside of a biodome or however you have a setup, greenhouse, and you can grow all season or all year. That's up to you whether you want to try to bring back peppers and bring back tomatoes and stuff like that. But I've done that. I've grown peppers in a situation where you can do that when there was a greenhouse available to me, and I just didn't get very good results with that. Yes, it will produce some peppers, but not on the scale that I think that it would on a first-year plant. So, yes, you can do it in containers. No, I wouldn't really do it. Not on my type of scale, because as you can see, I don't have huge amounts of space. This is a driveway. We do still use the driveway, so to unload and load, because that is our kitchen door over here. So it just isn't conducive to the space that I have. But if you have huge amounts of space, you don't use, say, a cement driveway or a rock driveway as much as we would, then yeah, do the containers. You'd be surprised how much you can grow in containers. Especially watermelons, melons of any type, and cucumbers. The containers are better for them because they warm up. The roots warm up a lot easier. As you can see what my watermelons and cantaloupes and cucumbers are doing. I get plenty of a harvest once they start producing. I've got flowers like crazy. I've got watermelons set on vines. So yes, you can do it. So if that's all the space that you have, or you have a large amount of space and you want to do both, that's up to you. It can get expensive if you're not careful, if you're not getting pots and containers and things at Goodwill or given to you or anything like that. That's why I use and reuse and recycle a lot of my containers, a lot of my flower pots, pick them up on clearance, pick them up just wherever that I can. I even put ads on Craigslist and Facebook, and people that are done with containers or they're moving and they can't take them with them, I just ask them to bring them to me, and I've not had any issues with people doing that. People have brought them out to me. So that's where I got this pile of containers from. I just put a listing on Facebook and asked if anyone had containers that they wanted to get rid of, and this very nice lady, she brought me all of these containers. And then I still have some from last season, but what I do is I recycle them. And this year I have been putting plants in the containers and then handing them out to people that maybe had gardens that didn't do as well as what they had wished they would do, or they had something die off, or just something happened, or they got a late start. That happens because a lot of people have to work and garden. I've had to do that before in the past. So I was working and 10-hour job, coming home, immediately getting into the garden at about 6:30 in the evening. Sometimes we wouldn't even eat dinner. We would just get straight out in the garden and start working. But so if I can help anyone like that I can, because I know how it was, then darn well I'm going to do it. So yes, you can grow in containers. Yes, you could have enough containers to feed a family, at least supplement your food quite well. But if you had enough availability to enough containers, and you could maintain it and do the work that it requires, then yes, you could grow enough to feed a family completely. So anyway, this is out here in the herb garden, and it's doing quite well. I still have radishes that are setting up. I've got a couple that went to bolt, and this is the black Spanish radishes. I'm just not having good luck with the black Spanish radishes. They seem to just want to bolt really fast. I don't think I've ever gotten an actual black radish out of them, so I'm just not going to waste the time. I got the packets for 20 cents, so it's not like I'm out a whole lot of money or anything like that. I actually used packets that I had last season too. I haven't bought any new ones as far as that goes, so that I can remember, that is. So I don't think we'll do the black Spanish radishes again. We've tried them, it hasn't been working, so we'll just stick with our crimson giants and lady slippers and all the other radishes that we have, because they seem to do a lot better. And we've got dill that is going to bloom. It did not get as large as I thought that it should out here in the herb garden, but again, this herb garden soil is more for herbs, not really so much for vegetables. But I do have a couple of cucumbers that are doing really well out here. We've got trellises over the top of. They are getting hit by some pest damage out here, I guess because it's probably more available to pests than some of the other. But they're doing okay otherwise. They've still got new leaves coming on, so we'll see if they actually do anything. And there's 2 more cucumber plants right there. I'll probably pull one of those out and throw it in a pot for someone. We got some squash planted in here, and I got one that came up in 3 days. So it's not like the soil is too awfully bad. It just needs a little amending from time to time. But will get some dill off of that. It just may be shorter. We've been getting plenty of chamomile out of here like crazy. We have 2 containers right now full. And we've got a couple more cucumbers over here. They're just not doing as well because they are exposed to the sun all the time. This herb garden never gets a break. It pretty much stays in the sun all day because it is just out here in the middle of everything. Lavender is looking beautiful, so the sun really isn't bothering the herbs so much. We've got a couple of Birdhouse Gourds out here that are getting bigger, putting on 4th, 5th leaves. I don't know if they'll actually get to the point that they'll produce anything, but we hope for it. And we've got some cosmos out here and marigolds. Our daylilies are just about gone. There's only a couple of them hanging on so far. Got a little bit of lettuce out here, which is still doing fantastic, even though it's getting hit with heat so much. We've even got some lettuce over there. This is the 4 Seasons, and it's been quite good. Again, just submerge it in water. It's been perfectly fine. And you can see our squash that came up right there. We've got a couple of butter dish squash in here. Like I said, I would go ahead and replant the butter dish. So we've got a couple of butter dish in here and a couple of zucchini. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They're all early maturing, so hopefully we'll get something out of them. But again, there is the containers, all doing wonderfully. Converted kiddie pool, doing fantastic. We're still getting strawberries out of here. Basil is actually bigger than any of the basil that I have right now. We've actually harvested some of it and still going strong. We've got cinnamon basil, regular basil, sweet basil, and lemon basil all in there. All of it's doing great. And of course we'll get some watermelons, hopefully the doll baby watermelons, which are early variety and are kind of small, personal sized. But everything's still doing fantastic over here in the containers, even with the upper 90s temperatures. It's really getting hot now already, and we're about 8 o'clock in the morning, I would think, because we've been going for about 30 minutes. Oh, and there looks like a morning cloak. No, actually that might be a monarch floating around because we've got some milkweed on the other side of the garage. And we got a borage that bloomed right in the center of the potatoes. We missed that borage and I can't get in there to get it out. So it came up and bloomed, but looks like it's just tall and spindly, so it's not really taking up a whole lot of space or anything. I just hope that it's probably going to reseed like crazy. So I was hoping that it would not do that. But that's the case how it is. Main garden over here is still looking great. We've got the red curry, the beans, all of that, tomatoes, tomatillos, peppers, everything looking fantastic. And also an update on the health situation. Remember, I was trying to really try to reduce weight and working on my health. That is actually going really well. I still have, the issue was that I was having a lot of swelling in a left ankle and lower section of my leg. And I'd had an injury, a hiking injury back in 2004. So I wanted that to stop, but I did not want to get on medication. I found out my blood pressure was a little high, so what I've been doing is just reducing the intake of salt. I have been changing a lot of what I snack on or eat. It's not that I've gotten rid of snacking, it's just that I snack less and I snack on better things. And so far it's been doing a lot better than it was. I still have swelling in the left leg. Probably will have that for ever, I'm sure. But I definitely feel a lot better. I am doing a lot better. So it is, whatever I'm doing is working. It's a slow process, but this is what the garden's going to help out with. Better fresh vegetables, know what's going into them, and that will help the health situation. Anyway, we're going to keep on going through the garden just a little bit, just a slow process here. I wanted everyone to see what the garden is doing, more than just a tour, so let's go through it with a part 2. So we'll see you in the part 2. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and that you get the notice for the part 2 that'll be coming up.